If you took somebody from sea level to the top of Everest, no supplemental oxygen, no support, they would be unconscious within minutes. Everest is a very inhospitable environment.
We've all had visions of how our final moments in this world might go, but none of us can even begin to imagine what it's like to live them in a place like Mount Everest. From passengers in a plane destined to crash to a submarine that went a little too far.
U.S. Coast Guard says debris from the Titan has been brought to the surface from the ocean floor.
The debris is consistent with the catastrophic loss of the pressure chamber.
The arrogance and the hubris that sent that ship to its doom is exactly the same thing that sent those people at that sub to their fate.
These people have experienced some of the worst endings you can think of, and it's all been caught on camera. Join us today as we tell you how a hidden camera found on Mount Everest captured the terrifying last moments of lost climbers. 1. The Lost Climbers. Mount Everest climbers often share photos and videos upon returning to base camp, giving a glimpse into the intense journey to the summit. These snapshots reveal crowded conditions, chaotic scenes, and unsettling moments that underscore the immense risks involved. One such account comes from IFMGA guide Vinayak Malla, who reached Everest's summit at 6 a.m. on May 21st, a peak day for summit attempts. Malla was guiding clients from elite expeditions. During their descent, they captured video footage showing how the fragile snow cornices could barely withstand the weight of the climbers and eventually collapsed, sending several individuals into a freefall. Although the video doesn't capture the actual break, it provides a clear and powerful view of the crowded summit ridge, with dozens of climbers cautiously traversing the narrow, snow-laden path. Malla described the ridge as more unpredictable than in past experiences. He noted the ridge had soft snow, multiple cornices, and rocky sections layered with snow, adding, "Even the weather station was partially buried." He recounted crossing the Hillary Step after reaching the summit, although movement along the route was hindered by the sheer volume of climbers. Then, unexpectedly, a cornice collapsed just a few meters ahead of his group. Luckily, Malla and his clients were on a different section of the ridge that held firm. In a second video, Malla documented the aftermath, showing a broken section of the cornice where climbers clung to fixed ropes and struggled to pull themselves to safer ground. He recounted how 4 climbers nearly fell, but managed to avoid a tragedy by clinging to the ropes and securing themselves. However, Malla added that 2 climbers had yet to be found, a stark reminder of the mountain's dangers. Assessing the perilous situation, Malla took action by breaking a new route for descending climbers, enabling them to move along the crowded fixed lines and conserve their limited oxygen supplies. His decision likely prevented a dire outcome for many.
Like and subscribe right now, and you'll have amazing luck for the rest of the week.
2. The truth about losing your life on the Everest. The shifting focus of Everest from exploration to what some now call a graveyard speaks to the harsh realities climbers face. Reaching the summit once symbolized unparalleled achievement, yet today, Everest's slopes are lined with those who never returned, remaining on the mountain indefinitely. Rachel Newer, writing for BBC Future, described this scene, explaining that many climbers and Sherpas remain where they fell, some tucked into crevasses, others buried under layers of snow or lying exposed, altered by the harsh environment. These bodies have become an unavoidable part of the landscape, with climbers sometimes stepping over them as they ascend. In recent years, tragedies have struck frequently. A report from BBC News highlighted that 3 climbers lost their lives on Everest over 4 days, including Subhash Paul from India, Eric Ori Arnold from Holland, and Maria Stridham from Australia. Paul's teammates were also reported missing. Climbers face numerous perils, from avalanches to lethal falls and the crippling effects of the zone known for loss of life. This extreme altitude near the summit drastically impacts the body and mind, impairing judgment and creating a level of exhaustion that can lead to fatal errors. The demand to reach the roof of the world remains high, despite the undeniable dangers. With considerable financial incentives for companies facilitating these expeditions, Everest has seen a continuous stream of climbers willing to brave its challenges. At times, fatalities become so overwhelming that expeditions are halted. However, the allure of summiting Everest, combined with financial motives, ensures that the line of eager climbers remains unbroken. 3. A submarine too deep. The final words exchanged with the crew of the Titan submersible, as it headed down to explore the Titanic wreck, reportedly included a calm message: "All good here." This message was revealed in a visual recreation presented by the U.S. Coast Guard during the opening day of a hearing into the cause of the sub's tragic implosion. According to Coast Guard representatives, the Titan's crew and the support ship, Polar Prince, communicated through text messages. Updates about the sub's depth and descent were exchanged until contact was lost. The Polar Prince sent multiple follow-up texts asking whether the Titan could still spot the ship on its display. One of the last responses, which had started to become inconsistent as the sub went deeper, was that everything seemed all good. The Titan's implosion on June 18, 2023, spurred global discussions on the risks of private deep-sea exploration. The investigation has uncovered details about the Titan's preparation and design. Coast Guard officials noted that the submersible had been left in storage and exposed to the elements for several months over the previous year, and that its hull hadn't been reviewed by third-party evaluators, a typical industry safety measure. Combined with its unique design, these choices raised concerns within the exploration community about the Titan's safety. Testimony from Tony Nissen, the former engineering director for OceanGate, the company behind the Titan, revealed feelings of pressure to get the sub ready for dives. When asked if there was a sense of urgency around launching the Titan, he replied emphatically, 100%. Nissen acknowledged that, ideally, safety testing could go on indefinitely with unlimited time and resources. He said the company co-founder, Stockton Rush, aimed to keep operations moving, although he didn't directly blame him for cutting corners. The implosion also claimed the lives of experienced Titanic researcher Paul-Henri Nargeolet, prominent Pakistani businessman Shahzada Dawood, and his 19-year-old son, Suleiman, as well as British adventurer Hamish Harding. Contact with the Polar Prince was lost about 2 hours into the Titan's dive. Soon after, an extensive rescue effort, involving ships, planes, and other resources, launched in an area roughly 435 miles south of Newfoundland's St. John's. The global response to the incident underscored the immense interest and concern surrounding the Titan's fate. Officials later reported that wreckage from the Titan had been found on the ocean floor, close to the Titanic's bow. The investigation, which was expected to last a year, has extended beyond that time frame, as authorities continue to piece together the events that led to the disaster. 4. Liam Payne's last days. A woman staying at a Buenos Aires hotel for a friend's wedding recalled an unsettling encounter with Liam Payne in the hours leading up to a tragic incident involving him. She shared her experience, describing what she saw as unusual behavior from the singer. This comes after the singer had only just shared happy videos from this trip on his Snapchat account. According to her, when she first arrived at the Casa Sur Palermo hotel, she noticed Payne standing by the elevator, seemingly hoping to be recognized. She told reporters that he seemed to be waiting for someone to notice him, and she thought he looked a bit desperate. Hotel staff appeared tense, she added, as it was already late afternoon, and Payne still hadn't checked out of his room. When the elevator arrived, Payne turned to her and her friends and announced, "Yes, I'm Liam." He invited them to join him, saying he loves a cuddle. She chose to wait for the next elevator, but some friends rode up with him, where Payne reportedly started talking about living in West Palm Beach, commenting on how crazy and dangerous Americans can be. At one point, Payne began acting playfully rough with a woman who seemed to be accompanying him, pretending to choke her, according to the witness. Shortly after, he reappeared in the lobby carrying a laptop. She noticed it was set to an accessibility setting, so the computer spoke aloud each move he made. She believed he was doing it for attention and saw him read an email that visibly upset him. Payne suddenly slammed the laptop on the ground, cursing loudly. Concerned, she approached to ask if he was all right, and he reportedly responded with a grunt, eventually adding, "I used to be in a boy band. That's why I'm so messed up." His words surprised her, and she found herself shocked that he'd openly say something like that. The woman said Payne's companion, a British man, later approached her and apologized, saying that his friend sometimes gets so high. She began to question whether those around him were doing anything to help him, noticing how the hotel staff looked increasingly worried. She saw one staff member on the phone, which she guessed was to security or the police. Payne eventually returned to the lobby a third time, visibly struggling to stay on his feet. She recounted seeing him trip and fall flat on his face. Hotel staff hurried over to assist, helping him back to the elevator, and she took a quick photo which showed him speaking to two women as his friend held the elevator door open. Not long afterward, the police arrived. At first, the woman thought they might just be there to escort him out, but soon realized the situation was more severe as staff scrambled around. Some of her friends later told her they'd witnessed him fall from his balcony into the courtyard below. She said it was an awful scene, initially hoping he was only injured, but then seeing the somber activity as staff tended to him, realizing just how serious things were. 5. Kelsey Barths' last moment of normalcy. In Patrick Frazie's trial for the murder of Kelsey Barths, the prosecutors stayed cautious with every question they asked. A common piece of advice for trial attorneys is to avoid questions if they don't already know the answer, and prosecutor Jennifer Veman seemed to follow this carefully when questioning Crystal Lee, Frazie's secret girlfriend. Lee's responses and the evidence she shared left an emotional mark on everyone present. The last known video of Kelsey Barths, a young mother from Colorado, showed her in a grocery store on Thanksgiving Day, carrying her baby in a car seat. She entered the store, picked up a cart, and then walked out of view, leaving a lasting image that circulated widely as part of the investigation into her sudden disappearance. Hoping to find new leads, authorities released this video to the public. Crystal Lee took the stand, giving a shocking testimony about her relationship with Frazie and the events surrounding Barths' disappearance. She explained that Frazie had called her from Colorado, telling her there was a mess to clean up. Torn between her feelings for him and a growing fear, Lee made the 12-hour drive from Idaho to Woodland Park. Once she arrived, she picked up keys from Frazie and began cleaning Barths' home, scrubbing away blood and other evidence. According to Lee, Frazie later admitted to her what he had done, describing a brutal scene that involved him visiting Barths' home with a baseball bat. He allegedly hid the bat, then set up a supposed scent-guessing game for Barths, asking her to wear a blindfold as he lit candles. But instead of a harmless game, he attacked her while their young daughter was in the next room, striking her multiple times. As Lee recounted these details in court, the last question posed to her hit especially hard. When asked if Frazie had mentioned anything Barths said during her final moments, Lee reportedly broke down, recalling that Frazie claimed her last words had been, "Please stop." This response left the courtroom silent, illustrating the emotional toll of her testimony and the reason for the prosecutor's cautious approach. In November 2019, after hearing Lee's testimony and reviewing the evidence, a Colorado jury found Frazie guilty, sentencing him to life in prison. The verdict brought some resolution to the tragic story, with Frazie ultimately stopped in a different way, by the court's decision. 6. The Carola YouTuber couple. In another story from Carola, a popular YouTube couple, Priya and Selvaraj, was found deceased in their home. They were discovered by their son upon his return late that night. Initial police investigations suggested the possibility of suicide, but the details of their final hours raised questions among their community. Just hours before their passing, Priya and Selvaraj had uploaded a YouTube video to their channel, which included a song titled Vida para Yukayanen Janmam, meaning Final Journey. This video, along with its emotional soundtrack, featured scenes from their daily lives, and many viewers felt it hinted at a hidden message. In one photo, Selvaraj was seen waving at the camera, while Priya stood behind him smiling, a gesture that some thought could be symbolic. Neighbors described the couple as quiet and mostly keeping to themselves, rarely participating in community activities like Kudumbashri, a local women's empowerment and poverty reduction program. Despite their reserved nature, Priya had built a following on YouTube, primarily sharing cooking tutorials and recipes. Her channel, called Selulu Family, had grown to nearly 18,000 subscribers, and she had posted close to 1,400 videos, mostly featuring her cooking tips. The circumstances surrounding the couple's passing prompted a mix of shock and concern among neighbors and viewers alike. Reports suggested the family might have been struggling financially, especially after the recent marriage of their daughter, and some wondered if this contributed to their struggles. Although the police had ruled the incident as likely being suicide, the couple's supporters and locals couldn't help but question if there was more to their story. 7. Prison passing. In December 2023, video footage captured troubling moments within a Missouri prison where 38-year-old Othel Moore faced his final hours. The recordings show Moore in his cell with a mask over his face, hands restrained behind his back, and legs bound together. Guards monitored him from outside the cell, with one guard watching while Moore struggled to breathe. Following the incident, 4 former prison employees from Jefferson City Correctional Center faced charges, although they denied responsibility. A 5th individual had their charges dropped. Reports allege that, during the incident, guards applied pepper spray to Moore and masked him, which ultimately obstructed his breathing. Moore's family, deeply affected by these events, filed lawsuits, asserting the actions taken against Moore contributed to the outcome. The surveillance footage shared by Moore's family attorneys provides insight into the prison environment on the day of the incident. The video shows guards conducting cell checks with prisoners left in a vulnerable state. Most were in boxers, restrained, and waiting in line. Moore, also in handcuffs, stood outside his cell when a guard applied pepper spray. According to the prosecutor, Cole County's Locke Thompson, Moore was non-compliant with the guard's instructions, specifically not remaining silent and allegedly spitting at the staff. However, other accounts suggest he may have been spitting out the pepper spray residue. The video goes on to show guards taking Moore away, leading him to his knees and then face down on the floor. His legs were bound, and a mask was placed over his face before he was strapped to a cart in a reclined position. At this point, Moore appeared calm and did not seem to be fighting with the guards. After he was moved to a cell, he initially tried to sit up, but quickly leaned back, visibly exhausted. His movements gradually slowed over about 20 minutes until he stopped moving entirely, his head resting at an awkward angle. 10 minutes after Moore had stopped moving, a nurse finally entered the cell. Video footage shows the nurse calmly checking his pulse and moving his head. A brief attempt at resuscitation was made, with rapid compressions applied to his chest, before he was transported out of the cell. The situation, as documented, raised questions about the level of care provided in that critical time frame. 8. Space Shuttle Crash. On February 1, 2003, a tragic event unfolded when NASA's Space Shuttle Columbia disintegrated as it re-entered Earth's atmosphere, resulting in the loss of its 7 crew members. Following this incident, NASA halted shuttle flights for over 2 years to thoroughly investigate what went wrong. It was determined that during launch, a large foam piece detached from the shuttle's external tank, damaging its wing. This issue with foam shedding had been identified as a risk for some time, and NASA faced scrutiny from Congress and the public over its response to the ongoing problem. This marked the second major shuttle disaster in NASA's history, following the Challenger explosion during its 1986 launch. The Columbia incident had a lasting impact, ultimately leading NASA to retire its shuttle program in 2011. Currently, American astronauts journey to the International Space Station, ISS, via Russian Soyuz rockets, or aboard commercially operated spacecraft like the SpaceX Crew Dragon, which began its service in 2020. Columbia, notable for being NASA's first shuttle to fly in space, made its maiden voyage in April 1981. Over its career, it successfully completed 27 missions. On January 16, 2003, Columbia embarked on its 28th mission, known as STS-107. Unlike previous missions, which often supported the construction of the ISS, this mission focused on scientific research. The crew, working in shifts, spent 16 days conducting around 80 experiments across various scientific fields, from fluid physics to life sciences. During launch, NASA observed foam striking Columbia's left wing around 82 seconds after liftoff. This foam piece originated from a bipod ramp, which attached the shuttle to its external tank. While initial video analysis showed the foam impacting the wing, it wasn't immediately clear if it had compromised the shuttle. However, as the investigation later confirmed, the foam had created a breach in the left wing. When Columbia re-entered Earth's atmosphere, atmospheric gases entered through this hole, leading to damage that disrupted the shuttle's sensors and structure. ultimately causing it to break apart. As the shuttle approached its final descent to the runway, Mission Control received an unexpected call. The caller mentioned seeing footage on a news channel showing Columbia disintegrating in the sky. Shortly after, NASA declared an emergency and dispatched search teams to comb through debris scattered across Texas and Louisiana. 9. Nepal Crash Passenger POV. In Nepal, an ordinary Yeti Airlines flight quickly turned to chaos, as captured in a passenger's cell phone video. Indian national Sonu Jaiswal and 3 friends were aboard, appearing calm and relaxed as Jaiswal filmed the landscape outside the window. His phone showed Pokhara's familiar buildings and roads as the plane started its descent. The calm, however, was shattered by an abrupt jolt. Suddenly, the camera became shaky. Smoke filled the frame, and panicked screams filled the cabin. In those moments, Jaiswal's video seems to reveal there had been no warning that the aircraft was in trouble. Authorities in India confirmed the identities of Jaiswal and the others in the video, but the full details of the video's origin are still hazy. Indian police stated that the video had somehow surfaced on social media following the crash, though it's not entirely clear how it ended up online. Reports suggested the footage might have been live-streamed on Facebook or found on Jaiswal's device, which potentially survived the impact. Meanwhile, Yeti Airlines announced the recovery of crucial flight data and cockpit voice recorders the day after the incident. These black boxes are essential to understanding what went wrong. Although much remains unknown, experts are hopeful this evidence will shed light on why the plane went down so suddenly, particularly during what should have been a routine landing at Pokhara's new airport. On the ground, locals witnessed the last moments of the flight, adding further layers to the unfolding story. 10. GoPro Drowning. In a different incident in Tennessee, a diver unearthed a lost GoPro camera containing someone's final moments. YouTuber Rich Aloha had been combing through the waters of Foster Falls State Park when he stumbled upon the device. Intrigued, he decided to inspect the camera and, to his surprise, found that the SD card was intact. On it was footage from 2 years earlier, recorded by Richard Ragland, a young man who had tragically lost his life while swimming beneath a waterfall at the park. Ragland had been recording himself and his friends, laughing and splashing around, just days before his 23rd birthday. Ragland's family had previously received an incomplete drive of his final recordings, though some files had been missing due to theft. When Aloha discovered the lost GoPro and realized what he'd found, he described the experience as surreal. He explained that he couldn't believe he had come across such an important find. Driven by a sense of responsibility, Aloha began searching for Ragland's family online. His efforts led him to Robin and Gary McCreer, Ragland's parents. When Aloha finally got in touch with the McCreers, they were overwhelmed to hear he had found their son's camera. According to the McCreers, they hadn't yet viewed all the footage, but expressed that the parts they had seen showed Ragland having fun and embracing life. Reflecting on the moments he captured, Robin said the footage was a reminder of her son's vivacious personality. In their view, the footage gave them a small bit of solace, filling in some of the gaps in their understanding of what happened to him. The McCreers shared their gratitude for Aloha's determination, as he had reached out tirelessly to locate them, and didn't stop until he succeeded. Aloha himself said he was glad he'd been the one to find it, sharing that he'd wanted to make sure the footage went to the family where it belonged. When the McCreers finally held the camera, they seemed deeply affected by seeing this piece of their son's life and by Aloha's determination to return it. 11. Diver thinks. These are his final moments. In 2016, Jacob Childs, a diver from Queensland, Australia, found himself stranded in open water, 30 miles from shore, with no rescue in sight. The day began normally, with Jacob diving off the coast with a group, but when he surfaced, he couldn't find the safety rope back to the boat. As he tried to catch up, he watched the boat drift further away. Alone in the darkening sea, Jacob was struck by the thought that help wasn't coming. Feeling resigned, he recorded what he thought might be his last words, noting in the video that if the sun set, he believed no one would be coming back.
The sun's going down.
Jacob later shared that he got into trouble when he missed the rope, as he was adjusting his grip and surfaced alone, only to see the boat moving away. The captain, apparently unaware of Jacob's situation, didn't turn back in time, leaving Jacob stranded as he continued to drift. He recalled that it was difficult to judge his location, since he had no visual landmarks, just waves stretching out in every direction. He described it as a long, lonely wait, with nothing but the vast sea around him and no sense of distance to shore. As the hours ticked by, Jacob remained calm. He said that his wetsuit kept him warm and floating, which helped him save energy. Despite the situation, Jacob said his main craving was just for a drink and maybe a cup of tea. Unknown to Jacob, a rescue operation was already underway. When he failed to return with the group, authorities initiated a search, and at around 5:30 p.m., a plane spotted him, 8 miles from the original dive spot. Jacob's experience and training as a diver helped him stay collected, which was crucial to his survival. Sergeant Rob Jorna, who led the rescue, explained that Jacob's quick thinking and use of safety equipment played a big part in locating him. Jacob activated his safety gear, which helped air searchers pinpoint his location in the water. Sergeant Jorna credited Jacob's knowledge of diving and his calm approach for keeping him safe until help arrived. So, which of these incidents did you find most harrowing? Is this how you would expect your final moments to go?